I don't think we haven't done enough impact. I think we've done enough impact with AI. We haven't seen the impact yet. We don't want to eliminate human from the loop, right? It's very important to have this operator within the system who double check, who make sure that the decisions that are made by AI are the correct ones and we're really introducing the right drugs. We hope that what we deploy, the models are so properly trained, that they're so well fed with the data and so properly prompt that it's not gonna happen, right? And we are mitigating the risk to the extent we can mitigate the risks, right?
Do you think that the impact of AI will be much bigger in biotech than it will be in pharma, just by the agility and ability to make decision-making easier and faster, rather than, I guess, the typical slower, bigger organization that pharma naturally is?
That's a good question.
I'm Pedro Coelho, your host, and this is The End Talks. In this episode, I'm joined by Joanna Sadowska, one of the leading voices in pharma and biotech on LinkedIn. Joanna, thank you for doing this and for coming to the podcast with us and to attend the event as well. So it's a pleasure to have you. For those that don't know who Joanna is, do you want to give a quick introduction on yourself, who you are, and where you come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here at the end and also being here at the podcast with you, Pedro. I'm Joanna, for many as well, Dr. Jojo. At least that's how I'm presenting myself on LinkedIn. I'm an immigrant woman in STEM, someone who worked, lived, and studied in 6 different countries and 3 different continents, which exposed me to innovation around the world within the space of life sciences, biotech, and pharmaceutical industry.
Nice. I mean, how does one become a LinkedIn influencer in this space? I guess that's what first question to start from.
Starting with LinkedIn influencing or content creation, there's no straightforward answer to this. For me, it's I think always I don't know how I became an influencer. Probably it started from the fact what is very important for me is educating people. I'm coming from the family where I'm the first person with higher educational degree. I also grew up in the country, in Poland, where education is free. So I was very lucky to grow up in Europe, where I could just attend the university without any debt in the future, which doesn't happen in many other countries, as we know. So it started pretty much from this idea, like, okay, I have so much knowledge, I can share this knowledge for free to other people, to younger generation, to give them this a little bit overview, what is biotech, how biotech works, how market research works, what is done in the pharma industry, how the innovation look like in pharma, and at the same time also educating people in pharma itself, educating market researchers, and that's how it grew. And apparently I became the LinkedIn influencer, yeah.
Honestly, it's obviously, I think you should be very proud because if I'm not mistaken, you're like LinkedIn #1 voice in life sciences. So it's a big achievement to have in such an industry where I think, if anything, knowledge is power, right? As we know, it's very hard to get all the knowledge in the world. And I mean, probably where we'll get to that, but AI is probably going to help us excel a lot more than probably many other industries. But again, it's definitely a big achievement to have had. If I go back in time and I look at your PhD time in Barcelona versus the Joanna of today that is in Boston working in the industry, what would you have said to the Joanna of back PhD days in Barcelona that life was going to change like?
What I would say to myself, be more brave of taking the decisions, be more visible to people, and everything will go well. And remember about your roots, remember about the fact that many people open you a door during your journey, whether it was my master's, whether it's my PhD in Barcelona. And don't forget that, and make sure that you're also opening the doors to others and helping others to get to the door, right? And helping them as well. So that's probably what I will teach the smaller Joanna.
Nice. Now, maybe bringing it to today's reality of AI. What do you see right now in the industry that excites you in terms of new technology? And where do you think that this is evolving the biotech and pharma industry towards?
I think we don't have time to actually cover everything in this podcast. I think AI is in general super exciting. And speaking about two, probably the main parts of the industry, which is the early discovery, so AI within the space of drug discovery, where we can really right now with current models screen molecules and really um, sorting the molecules way faster and bringing the right ones into the clinical trials faster. It is super exciting how we evolved in the last 10 years, because okay, we speak about it in the last 3 years, but in fact all these events were happening for the quite longer time. So this is extremely exciting, seeing how we can bring meaningful therapeutics to the patients faster and make this selection in the more meaningful way. And then obviously clinical trials. So the other end of the story, right? Because once you get the right molecule, it's where the journey really starts. So um, streamlining any kind of operations, streamlining any kind of paperwork, which is absolutely insane amount of work that has to be done behind the scenes to actually get these drugs to the patients, helping with patient stratification to making sure that the right patient is getting the right drug, right? It's not being done anymore as a blind test, okay, hit and miss way of finding the drug for the patient. We can really make this informed based decisions. It's really exciting because you really see how this innovation is being brought to the patients faster and this meaningful therapies to the patients faster.
So when I started Buyers, we had a huge amount of investment in drug discovery, right?
Hmm.
I mean, there was all these companies coming up about this idea of developing molecules with AI technology and coming up with these new compounds that we never even thought of because they didn't exist in nature, right? So it was like these artificial compounds we could create. And then next thing we knew, there was this huge funnel problem because technology was coming up with all these formulas, molecules, compounds, whatever you want to call them. But the funnel was not ready or capable
Hmm.
to bring that to the patients fast enough or cheap enough to be
Hmm.
able to support that volume,
Yeah.
right? Questionably, that's still the case today, but
Hmm.
obviously, I think the reason why I started Buyers was this fundamental problem and how could we fix that. Now, retrospectively, it hasn't gotten any cheaper just yet. So I think I would say we still have failed at this time to have make an impact big enough in 2 years. Obviously, I think you need more time to make an impact in this space. But if you were to look forward 5 years down the line, where do you think that we will evolve towards in terms of clinical development, which clearly seems to be lagging behind where AI technology has already impacted in drug discovery?
Where do you think? What do I think would be? Could you like kind of reformulate?
In short, how do you think clinical development will evolve with AI versus the evolution we've seen in drug discovery?
If we had these technologies 5 years ago, um, you just said right now that we haven't made enough impact in clinical trials. I mean, I don't think we haven't done enough impact. I think we've done enough impact with AI. We haven't seen the impact yet, right? I think that's the mindset. So probably if this has happened 5 years ago, and start having already AI incorporated 5 years ago into clinical development, we would be shortening and streamlining the processes when it comes to the patient stratification, streamlining processes when it comes to selection of the sites, streamlining the processes when it comes to the documentation, because it's actually a big red tape within the clinical trials to actually gather all the data and having all the data. So we would have way more knowledge right now, and likely more molecules already or drugs at the market, right? If this has happened 5 years ago.
If you would have to think about where will the impact be seen, I guess, in the highest peak
Hmm.
moment, where would you say it would be? Is it certification of patients? Is it just the documentation for the regulatory purposes? Where do you think we'll see most impact in this space?
I would likely say stratification of patients. I think uh, having all the data gathered, right? So having this kind of holistic view, who are we admitting to the clinical trial? So not having, so having the omnics, having the patient data would be very helpful and give us more fuller holistic view picture. and help with the patient stratification. So basically, as I said before, delivering the right drug to the right patients or finding the right patient for the right drug. When it comes to documentation, I think that um, we are progressing a lot, but there's still quite a lot to be done. Not only from the documentation side, but also from like very human perspective and change of the mindset. So not only introducing the technologies, but also introducing organizational change to people and making them understand that AI is not going to replace them. AI will just help them to make this decision, and they can really focus on delivering the excellence rather than doing the paperwork.
So you said two things that I think we could double click on.
Okay.
On one hand, AI is helping the person make the decision.
Hmm.
Many people, unfortunately, are not critical enough of the AI to actually making the AI help make the decision rather than the AI making the decision, right? What
Mhm.
is the risk that AI makes a decision instead of the human making an AI aided decision? And how much can that be of risk for health of patients and, I mean, in other words, drugs that might not get to market due to poor decisions done that way?
Poor decision made by the AI, by AI, right? Um, I think we would never, or I don't want to say never, but there will be a very long time. I don't think we don't want to eliminate human from the loop, right? It's very important to have this operator within the system uh, who double check, who make sure that the decisions that are made by AI are the correct ones and really introducing the right drugs. Now, each technology fails, right? We always have this 1% or 1 percentile of the technology that fails. Either we are talking about AI models or we are talking about the automatic taxis or the self-driven taxis, right? It the things happens, right? So having operator within the system is extremely important to making sure and double checking that we actually deliver and deliver the excellence to the people.
If I would put your words in a non-politically correctness, I would say statistical meaningfulness is the answer to your point, right? It's like, is it statistically meaningful, the mistakes, in other words? Because that's what we do in
Yeah,
driving driverless
yeah,
cars,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is it meaningful versus humans, right? And I guess here the question remains, would we make more or less mistakes if AI is making those decisions, even in drug development?
I don't know. That's the answer, right? But as you said, it comes to meaningfulness. Uh, it would be meaningful to someone, right? Like with the taxis, with the self-driven taxis, if there's an accident and something wrong happens, something bad happened to someone, that would be meaningful to someone, right? The same can happen with drug discovery, right? It could be meaningful and could impact someone's life, someone's decision. I know these are very small examples, right? Like the same way as we are taking a plane and we are hoping that all the 300 people will just arrive safely to the space, right? The same with deployment of the AI technologies. We hope that what we deploy, the models are so properly trained, that they're so well fed with the data and so properly prompt that it's not gonna happen, right? And we are mitigating the risk to the extent we can mitigate the risks, right? And I do have strong belief that these are great models that we are incorporating right now.
For sure, and I don't question that. I would say, if you want my opinion, I think today in drug discovery and drug development, we make mistakes as humans, right? The question
Absolutely.
is AI's mistakes level higher or lower than the human beings? And that's where I mean by statistical meaningfulness, right? In the end of the day, unfortunately, we know that many times
Yeah.
we get patients in trials and they still pass away and the
Yeah.
drug just doesn't work or whatever other version, right? I mean, that's where statistical meaningfulness come in place, right? It's like, is it 1.5%? Is it 1%? Is it 0.5%? Obviously, there are lives, and ultimately every life matters. But
Absolutely.
there's always a cost to scientific research, right? Unfortunately, this is a real topic that we've suffered from forever in
Hmm.
science, right? And unfortunately, to evolve, you need to test. I think that's the only way forward, unfortunately, in science. But maybe moving it towards a different topic. When I started again, AI was this myth in clinical development, right? There was barely any usage, or
Hmm.
I mean, I would say questionably no usage whatsoever. Today we start to see a big shift, right?
Hmm.
And so much so that I mean, buyers alone had over 300 protocols generated in Q1 this year, right? So, and that's the one data point I see in person day to day very closely from, but obviously that means that a ton of other pharma companies and biotech companies are seeing day to day. Do you think that the impact of AI will be much bigger in biotech than it will be in pharma, just by the agility and ability to make decision making easier and faster, rather than, I guess, the typical slower, bigger organization that pharma naturally is?
Um, that's a good question. It might be potentially faster with biotech, which is more prone for innovation, right? That's what always we say, right? The biotech is the innovation, pharma is the implementation to a certain extent. So definitely as an entry point, yeah, biotech could really make an impact. Um, Bigger than pharmaceutical industry and also make an impact to more underrepresented patients, especially when you have the smaller biotech that take care of the patient with rare diseases, right? Where the finding the right drug or finding the right patient, where you really work with a small, very limited pool of patients for this kind of for this type of clinical trials. So yeah, this impact could be potentially bigger within the biotech. Now, as you said, pharma is slower. The implementation into pharmaceutical is way slower, but we know they are operating with way bigger volume than biotech. So once this is implemented, and eventually it will be implemented, because I do believe, I mean, there's a lot of already AI in pharma as well. This will have incremental impact when it comes to the clinical operations and to the clinical trials as well.
It takes us to two different topics, so we'll break it down one by one. On one hand, if you think about the rare diseases side, obviously I would say that would be the patient population that will benefit most, because
Hmm.
lower cost of drugs traditionally means we'll test more, or
Hmm.
at least same R&D budgets will be able to test more if we just
Yeah,
take it at
yeah.
that way. So it means that at least we'll try to get more drugs to market
Mhm.
for smaller patient populations,
Yes.
which economically wise, it was just not viable until today. So do you believe that rare diseases will see this big surge as AI keeps bringing the cost of trials down? And if so, don't you think that that will actually increase also the surge of number of biotechs in rare diseases?
Yes, I do believe that AI would help with finding the drugs and developing the drugs for the rare disease, for the patients suffering from rare disease. Because as you said, I fully agree with what you just said. That yeah, we are liberating certain amount of money that we can reinvest for the R&D and study the rare diseases, and also here, at least in US, where you have the orphan designation, is also easier way of entry into the market, so we can really streamline processes to so bring the therapies way faster to the patients with rare diseases. And then on the other hand, again, that would likely increase the amount of biotech in general in the area here in the US or in Europe as well, that will find interest in developing these therapies, because clinical trial in general, it's frequently a valley of death for smaller biotech, because the amount of cash that it's burned during that phase, it's absolutely insane. So for smaller biotech, that they have very short runway and frequently one or two assets, reducing the price of clinical trial, like having the AI assisted clinical trials, could be huge help, right? And we can go maybe from funding routes of 60 million to 40, 30 million, and reducing that in half, right?
Absolutely. The other topic I was alluding to is how much change will we see in the workforce of pharma once this adoption actually starts, right? Today, pharma has traditionally been siloed. So everyone works in a part of the trial, whether that is just the protocol writing, whether that's just the execution, study activation, study startup. I mean, we could continue filling
Mhm.
in dozens of different silos that don't necessarily talk to each other, but they coexist in this idea that once this silo is full, moves on to the next silo, and it goes in this cascade or
Mhm.
waterfall effect of drug development. And I guess, in other words, will we see an evolution of pharma to go from a waterfall effect to an agile workforce? Or is this just a far-fetched dream?
I think that eventually we will. It will take time because, as we said, it's very slow industry, and very reluctant to change as well, because they have their way of working, as you said, in the siloed way, where just have multiple teams and just forwarding the documents team after team. But I think we will see more and more uh, horizontal type of positions. People overseeing rather than one silo, uh, one type of, I don't know, regulatory and medical part, just kind of overseeing the entire processes with better tools, which would allow the person actually to um, cover bigger area or bigger pipeline within the pharma industry. I do think we still have to wait a little bit more for this industry to see that happen, but I'm pretty much optimistic that we will eventually see this evolving, this involvement, this change in this industry.
It's a very interesting topic because I think I've spoke to many people in pharma
Mhm.
obviously over the years, and everyone says the same thing, which is that the job of a pharma company is to bring drugs to market, right? And
Yeah,
questionably, and I don't want to mean it in a negative way, but at any cost that will eventually make money, right? That is
yeah,
ultimately the job,
yeah.
right? And but unfortunately, due to regulations and evolution overall, just became so clunky, right? And almost over the top clunky that it just takes so long, so many people involved, such a huge amount of money to do that. So it's almost ripe for change. But those same people have a job thanks to this clunkiness, right? So there is almost like unproportional incentive to continue just
Mhm.
because clunkiness justifies their day-to-day job.
Yeah.
So, you know, how are we going to overcome the fact that the very own people that are doing that job today will have to be displaced or at least changing the way they see their jobs to adopt this?
Hmm. Yeah, that comes right to all the behavioral changes in general in any industry, in any organization, and all the fear that people are experiencing right now with the AI bloom. I mean, everyone reads news, everyone knows about the layoffs of certain tech companies, especially or pharma companies as well, due to the implementation of the AI. Um, I personally don't want to see that as AI replacing people. It's more about, I think that if you look historically, it was always people with tools, with people against people with better tools. So, and I think uh, not seeing that as a fight, but in general, right? We won't replace the people. We're just gonna eventually get different type of roles that are more agile, and those people with with different mindset who are actually incorporating certain AI tools and incorporating certain growing mindset would be the one replacing the current clunkiness of pharma and clunkiness of structure that it's there. So uh, I wouldn't like to use like AI replacing people, right? After all, it's always human there who just had time and energy to actually learn how to use certain tools to facilitate and make the job easier, faster, cheaper, etc.
But isn't the risk for today's pharma companies that a new type of pharma companies will come up that are agile, AI native businesses that will be able to take drug development faster, cheaper, and eventually, if nothing happens to the current way pharma companies exist, completely disrupt them out of business
Yeah.
eventually, if
Hmm.
it continues this way, right? So
Absolutely, absolutely. But the risk is innovation, right? The risk is innovation. So eventually, we might get different companies, might get different business structure of pharma companies that are more AI agile, and this one would eventually replace the competitors or other big pharma or biotechs as well, right? But innovation, after all, it's meaningful to patients, right? So having this competition, whether it is competition pharma against pharma with AI, or pharma in the US against pharma in China, right? We can see that right now, how US it starts really trying to build and speed up a little bit, because everyone is afraid of what is happening in Asia, right? In terms of the drug discovery, in terms of innovation. So having these risks, having this competition, that brings innovation. There's more innovation, patient wins.
Fully agreed. And I think patient wins is ultimately the end goal for
Absolutely.
everyone in this industry. I guess one final question for you. Looking forward, again, maybe another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, where do we see the patient journey changing in a clinical trial? We just heard the FDA coming out with, I guess, live monitoring or live feeding of data into a regulatory approach. Is 24/7 monitoring the future for patients with whatever that is, wearables, phone
Hmm.
apps,
Yeah.
or is that not the future? Where do you see that landscape evolving towards?
Yeah. I think it is a future. I think we will give much more power and decision making to patients as well. So, from one perspective, more accessibility to their own data and understanding actually what is happening behind the scenes, and more also possibility of decision making for them, right? So, uh, helping patients to choose the clinical trials, for instance, right? So, giving them all the information, giving them all the data, and helping the patients alongside together with the doctor to make informed decisions. So I feel that it's something very much empowering for the individuals, very much empowering for the patients when it comes to AI, because I feel that that would really empower the people who are searching for hope, who are searching for new therapies, to find them faster.
Johanna, it was a pleasure. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Pedro.
Thank
Thanks.
you.